having a look at apartments and back to the fish. We like the fish. They're fat, they're slow, they're easy to catch. So this is the overall apartment, A, B and C grade in Ho Chi Minh City. You can see, again, relatively small, and this is a product of the stock levels. That's not a great deal of stock in a 9 million person city, only 4,500. Average price across the whole market is 2,500. That's pretty meaningless because there's a fair amount of weight in the grade C that drags that price down. What I might do is step through each of the grades. Perhaps if we get that little orange fish, the little minnow, and have a look at him first. So this is A grade. Where the A grade coming on, it's coming in at about $7,000 a metre of NFA across all the sales. 8 active projects, very, very small volume stock coming to the market, as you can see. Only 172 sales in all of Q2. So it's pretty shallow. There is some really interesting opportunities coming up. We'll come to that a little bit later on the future supply. Having a look now at grade B, the fat blue guy. Grade B is also very interesting, nearly $3,000 a square metre across the whole of the grade B market. What's really interesting as we start to look at some of the opportunities, where's the opportunity lie? So this is price, this is supply. The larger the bubble, the more stock there is. So generally what you're doing, having a look at this, is seeing most of the pricing is within a relatively thin band. You'd be looking for the outliers to see whether one is too expensive, why is it too expensive, one is too cheap, why is it too cheap. Having a look at those outliers and figuring out where it is. And of course the larger bubbles, probably a little bit larger stock supply, therefore more homogeneous product, therefore less opportunity for price growth. So this is just some really quick and dirty analytics there. Let's have a look at the C grade market. Interesting. There's your number 1.5 per Met of NFA. So that's a pretty healthy price. That's an average price. And as you can see, it's eclipsing all of the other grades by a long, long way in sales, in stock volumes. The market is being driven by grade C apartments in Ho Chi Minh City. This is very healthy. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. You can see where everything is heading there. Let's have a look now as we move to the outlook for apartments. So first of all, we'll probably use the spatials on this just to see where it's located. Lots of cool dots. So it is busy. That's showing you all the apartment projects in Ho Chi Minh City. And then showing you the active ones that are for sale and then the future ones. Ho Chi Minh is interesting that it's pretty flat and featureless. There is no hills that create value. There's nothing, there's very little geographic that creates value out of the topography. So it's pretty flat, therefore your amenity and your value driver is to the District 1 advantage or other amenities. So far, as we see some of the large master plan developments coming on, and that will also create value changes as well. Having a look now, future 2020, it's coming on. Let's have a grade A. Where is all that? Not a great deal coming on, pretty skinny, 2TM. We can see a couple of projects there. That's pretty much all the grade A that's coming on for the second half. Have a look at grade B. Where is that? Again, not so much. A little bit more grade B. And then finally, grade C. So that's where we're sitting for the future. If we then throw all of that into a single map to see what's going on throughout the city on the geospatial context. First of all, having a look, active sold out. It looks pretty interesting, very, very busy. We can see historically a lot of development has been down through District 7. Historically relatively cheap prices, but now the development corridor moving across to the east and starting to fill up District 2, District 9, being the heavy bias for development. Having a look at the future is also interesting. Again, looking towards the C-grade projects and the cheaper land as you move a little bit further away from the centre of the city. Good to see those metro lines coming up, and let's see how we go with the transport-orientated developments as we move through, coming as Metro Line 2 opens. Okay, so then that's all very interesting, some spatials, have a good look at some maps. What's been happening, I mentioned before, grade C drives the market. This is healthy. So this has an absence of speculators, has an absence of investors. It's very, very healthy, it's in control. There is not much chance of a property bubble. It is a whole load of equity existing in that. And there's very little at this top of B, A, that is fractal. Very small numbers, so generally this market seems to be pretty much healthy and in check. Just some other interesting things that are going on. Property portal visits has been interesting. I think you can see that around tech time things are pretty dull. Nobody was even going on the internet, everyone was sitting on the beach. Then as we came into COVID, you can see a dip and punching out now into where all the property portals are very excited. It's a little bit of a product of their availability, of their tech, of their offering, maturing as well. Certainly going very, very well. We've done a little bit of other analysis here that's interesting. This one is the outstanding payments. So we've got every future development that is selling. We've then got all of their schedule of payments on all of their sales. We've added them up to see when the peak level of calls will be. So when the most money will be demanded on your schedule of payments to be paid to developers. The thesis behind that is that that's probably the time when attention will be when there is the most wobbles in the market around this, if there is. And that's beginning of 2021, beginning of 2022. All of the we have surveyed have said, look, there's no delinquency, everyone's paying on time, everything's going okay. So the prospect of this coming to some sort of reality or some sort of tension is probably pretty low so far. You get to so far through this, you won't turn around anyway. But just an interesting thing. The other part that we've had a look at is this handovers and the yield. So it's one of these fundamental economics. More supply, price goes down. Blah, blah, blah. What you can see as we're moving through handovers, a little bit of yield pressure. Everyone expected that. Vietnam has been yielding so very, very strongly for such a long time. You can't do 8% all of the time on a resi. The counter of this is, of course, long-term property investment is a factor of total returns, so it's a factor of your capital advantage as well as your dividend yield or your rentals. So we see rentals coming down. We can certainly see, particularly with HCMC, that there is much opportunity for decent capital growth in your total returns analysis.